Hello, and welcome to a Fresh View podcast, where we talk about life in Jesus Christ. Whether you have a community of kingdom ambassadors for Christ or not, I have good news for you. You do now. Before we dive into this amazing episode, I want you to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. That, my friend, is the purpose of this podcast: to feel fresh, whole, and rejuvenated in your perspective and walk with Jesus Christ through this beautiful gift called life. My name is Andrea Robinson, and it is a great honor to be the host and CEO of a Fresh View podcast. Again, welcome, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and pass along to others the amazing wisdom gained from this episode. And most importantly, the gospel, good news, and love of Jesus Christ. Without further ado, let's get to it.
Hello and welcome to another episode of a Fresh View podcast. So we are in the series of your birthing season, or also known as your waiting season, not just in the physical realm, but in the spiritual realm. That is originally what this series started off with, and little did I know that I was going to be physically, literally pregnant during this time. But it's an exciting journey and I'm excited. The exciting part is the journey, yes, but you know when you get closer and closer to time, it's like, I want to see my baby. Like, I want to see what they look like. Like, I just want to hold them in my hands, my arms. Like, you're in a season of waiting to birth the very thing that you are carrying. Something that I have been studying and that the Holy Spirit has placed on my heart is the story of Hannah and Peninnah. Hannah was literally watching Peninnah live out the very thing that Hannah went to God and prayed for, the very thing that Hannah desired. Peninnah was living out that dream flourishingly. Like, Peninnah was producing kid after kid after kid after kid. Hannah desired a kid, and Hannah didn't get not one kid. She was watching someone produce in the very area that she was going to God, praying and asking him to help her produce in. The very area that she wanted to produce in, she was not producing in, and Peninnah was producing in. It's so easy to feel like in a season like this that God's favor has left us, or we don't have God's favor. But it's so crazy how people will see the favor of God on our life and we don't see the favor of God on our life. Other people can see that and we can't in seasons like this. And it's because we're so focused on what we wanted to produce, what we were expecting in our prayers and requests to God, that now that we are not living in answered prayers, sometimes it's hard to see God's hand over our life. You're in your season and you're expecting this season to be great. You're expecting the season you're in to flourish and prosper in so many ways. You're expecting this season to be a season where God does exceedingly abundantly and above all things that we can imagine. And I mean, what season do you go into expecting bad things to happen, honestly? Expecting, just it not to be your best season. I think every season we walk into, we have that mentality that this is going to be a better season than last season, that what I'm about to walk into is about to be better than the previous things that I walked into. I feel like we expect every season to be seasons of elevation, of greater, of better, of abundance, of overflow. And how do you handle those seasons where it's exactly opposite of what you expected, exactly opposite of what you prayed for? How do you handle this season where you feel like in the area you're supposed to be sufficient in, you're lacking in? How do you handle this season where you feel like you are supposed to be flourishing and on top, and you feel like you are at rock bottom? You feel like you are stagnant, you are going nowhere. Instead of taking steps forward, you feel like you took steps backwards. You feel like, God, I was expecting an amazing season, and this is a season that I'm like, what in the world is going on? In Proverbs 4 verse 23, it talks about, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And that is so true and so important, because when you let the pressures of society, let the pressures of things around you or your circumstance or season, when you let that get into and seep into your spirit, now your spirit is irritated, is bothered, you're like, what is going on? You're letting different things into your circle, into your space that was never meant to be there. You hold a weight that was never meant to be there. You are now letting the weight on you dictate how you steward the season. And we also try to put more on us than we can bear. God wouldn't put more on us than we can bear. However, in the same sense, we tend to let the pressures of the world, of society, of family, of friends, of our environment, of our circumstances, of our season get the best of us, and that begins to weigh us down. And now we're in a season where we're frustrated because we don't know how to handle this. Not only do we not know how to handle this, but it's taking us on a roller coaster of emotions and thoughts and feelings and whatever else it is. You start to have anxiety, and you never had anxiety before, or now the anxiety is higher than before because of the pressures that we let into our realm. And I found myself doing that. I found myself letting so much weight that I knew I could not carry. That weight that's just not meant to be there. I feel like you have your healthy weight, and then you have that weight that you know you're adding and gaining because you're eating ice cream, you're eating fries, you're eating everything unhealthy at whatever time of the day. Like, it's like excess weight that just isn't needed. We step back from guarding our hearts. We kind of gave it wiggle room for excess weight to enter and seep into our spirit and seep into our space and environment. Penina was able to see the favor of God over Hannah's life, whereas Hannah, she didn't see the favor of God over her life. She felt like she was forgotten. In Hannah's prayer, she said, "Lord, remember me." So in a sense, it's like, okay, she feels like God has forgotten about her. She feels like God has left her, that God's hand was not on her life as heavy as it was on Penina. God's favor, God was still there all along the way. God's favor was still on her, not in the capacity and way that she desired. A lot of times people will be like, oh, let me not get my hopes up. And I can't stand when people say that, just because when you say, let me not get my hopes up about something, you got a job or you did good at an interview and it's like, let me not get my hopes up, or God has blessed an amazing human being in your life and you're like, let me not get my hopes up. Let me not get too far ahead of myself. That's basically saying, like, yes, we know that things can happen, but at the same time, that's your lack of faith being exposed. It goes back to, oh, ye of little faith. When you have big faith in God and not yourself and not the situation and not the blessing and not the thing that God has brought your way. And oftentimes we don't want to get our hopes up because we have, in a sense, been let down in a lot of areas, whether it's in relationships or job wise or financial wise or whatever it is. We have had moments where we have been let down, where things have not went our way, where we got excited and things end up going downhill. And it's so we get comfortable with this phrase of, let me not get my hopes up, let me not get ahead of myself, let me not get too excited. And in all honesty, that's not guarding your heart or your emotions from anything. That's really exposing your faith, your lack of faith in God. And if things don't go out the way you plan, God is still good. God can still take you and turn things around for the good of you, for the better. You're going to be on that hill where everything is going great, and then all of a sudden it's like, sometimes it feels like God just snatched it right out of you, like snatched it right from under you, or God is just like, yeah, no, never mind. No, God doesn't enjoy seeing us fail. God doesn't enjoy seeing us sad. God doesn't enjoy us not enjoying life. God created us to enjoy life, to enjoy His nature, to enjoy His love, to experience His love, to experience His presence, to be in His presence. You don't dictate and define your joy based on a circumstance, based on a situation. Joy comes from God, and happiness comes from the moments and blessings that God does in our life. So yes, there are going to be moments of happiness, and there are going to be moments of sorrow. There are going to be moments where you're so excited about something and looking forward to something, and God has blessed you abundantly. And then there are going to be moments where it's like, okay, God, this is not what I asked for. Okay, God, why is this happening? Okay, God, what is going on? You're going to have those moments because that is life, which is why we have to stand firm on is our firm foundation on God. Because while everything else is constantly changing, God remains faithful. He is still there. He is to help us through the moments that we don't understand. God, why is this happening? Sometimes it's natural. It's a human thing. You look at somebody else and it's like, okay, how in the world do they do this, that, and I do this, and they're doing better than me? How in the world is that even possible? Like, I did the work to get here. You said faith without works is dead. I put in the work. I had the faith, and now the works is not producing. The season is not producing. The fruit is not producing. I planted the seed. I rooted. I watered it. I did everything that I had to, and it's not producing what I thought it would produce. And in moments like that, it's like you get frustrated. You find yourself, in a sense, going like, okay, well, I don't think it really makes a difference in putting the hard work. And I don't really think it makes a difference with doing this or doing that. I might as well just do what they're doing, because they're doing way better off than me. And they're living in the very thing that I am praying for, that I sought you, God, for, that I had faith in, that I would produce in. The very area that I thought I would produce in, they're producing in, and I'm literally not producing the way I thought I was going to produce. We are not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities. Sometimes we can question God's love and think that he loves them more, or they have more favor over you. But God has no favorites. He loves us all equally. God loves us more than our hearts can even fathom or hold. It's like, it's a different type of love where human can't even give us the love that God has for us. I think oftentimes we think we're doing it God's way, when in reality we're really doing it our way. We think, oh, because I'm reading my Bible, because I'm praying, that I'm doing it God's way, that, oh, God's going to answer, God's going to show up in this area, God's going to show up this way. When in reality we're so focused on going to God about this certain thing that we're not really open to whatever else it is that he's trying to show us and tell us and reveal to us. We didn't fully invite God into every moment, every thought, and into the season fully. We gave him a percentage of the season. Sometimes we like our fruits and not our veggies. Sometimes we like our veggies and not our fruits. Well, this is a season where I just care about the fruit. I don't care about the veggies. I don't care about all the other things. I just want the fruits. I want to produce the strawberries. So I'm going to plant seeds just for strawberries. And God is like, well, did you really include me into this season? Because I don't just have seeds for you just to produce strawberries. Are you really inviting God into the season? And it doesn't mean when you invite God into the season that you're going to know every detail, you're going to know every curveball coming to you. However, you will be able to walk into the season, walk throughout the season with discernment, with peace, with joy. Hannah's husband was tending to both of his wives, Peninnah and Hannah. However, he gave double of what he was giving to Peninnah. And Peninnah saw that. Peninnah didn't appreciate that. That is why she was so rude to Hannah, because she was able to see the favor of God over Hannah's life, and Hannah was over here not seeing the favor of God because she was so focused on what she wanted to produce that she wasn't seeing the holistic, the wholeness and beauty of God even along the journey. God may not have answered her the first time, the second time, whatever, how many times, but there is power in the consistency of your prayer. Hannah did not just go to the Lord one time. Hannah didn't just go to the Lord 2 times. That was a prayer that have been going on for a long time. And year after year, she was reminded of the very thing that she desired, but could not produce in. Hannah, not only did she keep praying those prayers, but she had to experience that anguish, that grief, and the sorrow, and times of weeping, and everything else that she experienced. She had to continue to experience that year after year after year, because she was watching Peninnah produce in the very area that she was seeking God after over and over and over for her to produce in. I can bring that to my own life, and I'm pretty sure you can too, where it's like, in a sense, you kind of start to lose faith, or you kind of get weary, and it's like, goodness gracious, like, does my prayer even matter anymore? Is there value in my prayer? God, are you hearing me? Are you seeing me? And even Hannah had that moment where she said in her prayer, God, remember me. In verse 11, Hannah is talking to God, and she's saying, God, look at your servant's misery. God, remember me. Do not forget me. Do not forget that I want a son. Even then, God still didn't answer her prayer right then and there. It says the next morning, which means she still had to wait. The next morning they woke up, they went back to their home. And then her prayer was finally answered. It even reveals that Hannah was in a season of waiting. Hannah was in a season of birthing. Hannah was in a season of being unfamiliar, and a season being uncomfortable. Hannah was in a season that she had to experience over and over and over. She was in a season of unanswered prayers, yet she continued to go to God about the prayer. She continued to have faith that God, you will come through. She continued to seek after God. Even though she went and prayed to God and did not get what she prayed for, she was able to have so much peace and joy that it said in the scripture that she wasn't eating, and she went to God and wept. And now she is now in a place where she can eat. Her face is no longer downcast. She now has peace, overwhelming peace, even though her prayer is still not answered. And that goes to show, like, God remembered her. God sees her. God sees you. He's not just, even if he doesn't answer your prayer right away, he will give you peace even in your unanswered prayers, because he is a God that is working behind the scenes. We may not see everything that he does. We may not see that he is stirring up the pot. We may not see that he is plowing and working in and through us. And we may not see every detail and the hand of God in every single detail of the journey, in every single detail of the birthing season, in every single detail of this waiting season. However, his hand is there. It never left. His favor is still there. His love is still there. It never left. And it is our job to continue to go to him, to continue to seek him, even in our moments where it does not feel like nothing is going our way, even in our moments of uncomfortability. She eventually got what she prayed for. And it goes back to, we are not wrestling against flesh and blood. Hannah wasn't wrestling against Peninnah. Year after year, it wasn't Peninnah that Hannah was wrestling after. It was the enemy trying to work and get into the crevices and creases of Hannah's spirit, to turn her back against God, to deceive her and make it seem like, okay, you can't produce in this area and it's going to always be like this. The enemy was coming to steal Hannah's joy, to steal Hannah's faith, to steal the consistency of Hannah's prayers, to steal the certainty that Hannah had in God and in her prayers that he will come through. The enemy was coming to steal, kill, and destroy the prayers of Hannah, to destroy the joy of Hannah, to destroy the consistency. And he was coming to kill the very thing that she was planning to birth, that she was expecting to birth. The enemy was coming to kill and destroy that dream that Hannah had, the desire that Hannah had. And how did he do that? By using Peninnah to come and irritate her and remind her of the very thing that she is going to God about, he is not answering. In this season of birthing, there is still fruit for you to produce. And know that you too will be able to produce and walk in an answered prayer. It may take time. It may not take time. It takes God's time, okay? It doesn't take human time. It's on God's timing. Everything operates on God's timing. And God's timing is the perfect timing. Don't give up on God. Don't give up on your prayer. Continue to pray. Don't lose hope. Don't lose sight of God. Don't lose faith in God. Don't lose faith in your prayers. Don't think that your prayers don't matter, that they are not being listened or heard by God. God sees you. He hears you. He is even listening to the depths of the depths of the depths of your heart, even the inner thoughts, the thoughts that you speak out loud, the thoughts that come for a quick second then go away. He's listening to your doubts. He hears every single thing that's going on with you. He knows the hairs of your head. I love Psalms 139 because it literally reminds me and tells us how God knows more than we know about ourselves. I don't know how many hairs are on my head, but God does. That just goes to show that God really loves and cares about you. He cares about the details. He cares about the details. God is a God that will surpass our understanding, our mind, our desires, our goal. It talks about in Isaiah 55 that God's ways and plans and thoughts are higher than our ways, plans, and thoughts. God has better in store for us than we can even imagine and think of. And it's hard to picture that. It's hard to believe that. It's hard to have faith in that when everything seems like it's opposite of what we're going to God about. When everything just seems like it's against us and not working for us. God is in every detail. He cares about us, and he cares about the details, and he cares about the very season that we're walking in and through. And it's not easy. It's not easy. We're human. We can only carry so much. We can only go through so much before we break down and we cry and we go through different emotions. But it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have that heavy weight and give it to God. He wants us to give it to him. It's okay to experience the roller coaster. I feel like oftentimes we feel like we have to have everything all together, but I'm going to tell you now, you don't have to. It's not going to ever be. Life is not like that. You're not going to always have it together. Life is happening to all of us in different ways, in different times. And it's like, what do you do in the waiting season? Do what Hannah did. Continue to pray, continue to have faith, continue to seek God, and continue to plow the ground, continue to nourish your seeds, continue to plant seeds of fruit. Life is not easy. The season you're in is not easy, but you are definitely more than capable, more than able to not only get through it, but prosper through it. From now on, in this season, go through it with a fresh view. Let this episode encourage you and shift your perspective to a fresh view, a fresher view of this season you're in, of this waiting season, of this birthing season, and of how you're supposed to steward this season, and of God overall and what He's doing in you and through you, and the fruit that you are producing and will produce in this season and the next to come.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and pass along to others the amazing wisdom gained from this episode. And most importantly, the gospel, good news, and love of Jesus Christ.